Hello everyone, I'm your mentor Dr. Mandakini Soren, and today we are going to study Class 10 Biology, Chapter number 5, Life Processes, Part 3. So the topics that we are going to cover in this video are definition of breathing, definition of respiration, difference between breathing and respiration, types of respiration, that is aerobic and anaerobic respiration. We are going to study the definition and the types, difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. And at last, we are going to study breakdown of glucose in aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So, let us study the first topic, that is breathing. So, breathing is what? The process of inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide through the lungs. So, when we tell about breathing, it is what? The process. Suppose in case of human being, the process of inhaling oxygen, when we take in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, that is take out carbon dioxide, but with the help of what? With the help of our lungs. So that simple process is called as breathing. And what about respiration? So respiration is somewhat a complex process in comparison to breathing, that is the process of acquiring oxygen from outside the body and later using it for the breakdown of food sources to produce energy required for various cellular needs. Okay, so see, respiration is the process of acquiring oxygen from outside the body. So when we take in oxygen from the external environment and we use this oxygen for the breakdown of food sources, okay, in order to produce energy. Now see, this oxygen, when it reaches to the lungs, and then from the lungs it will move to the blood, and from the blood it will then move to the various cells of the body, and these cells, inside these cells, what will happen? Breakdown of food sources. Okay, breakdown of food sources with the help of what? The oxygen that is supplied to the different cells of the body. Now, this oxygen, when it breaks down the different food sources, it will release what? It will produce energy. Okay, it will produce energy in the form of what? It will produce energy in the form of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. So, this process, complete process of the oxygen taken from the external environment and the oxygen being used by the cells of the body in order to break down the food sources to produce energy in the form of ATP is called as what? Is called as respiration. Now, let's move to the next topic. So, difference between breathing and respiration. As I already told, that breathing is a process of inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide through the lungs. And in case of respiration, it is the process of acquiring oxygen and using it for the breakdown of food sources to produce energy. Now, this breathing, it happens in the lungs. Okay. The process of breathing happens in the lungs, but the process of respiration, it happens in the cells of our body. Okay. Now see, when we take in oxygen and take out carbon dioxide, then what happens? It is a physical process. Okay, because the nose as well as the lungs are involved in the process, so it is a physical process. But what in case of respiration? Respiration is a biochemical process. That means it is both a biological as well as chemical process. Okay. So as we already know about the breakdown of the glucose. Okay, breakdown of the glucose. That is what it is, a biological as well as chemical process. Now see, during this breathing process, we uses energy. Okay, every one of us, every organism uses energy. But what happens in case of respiration? In case of respiration, we produce energy. Okay, we produce energy. Now let's move to the next topic. What are the types of respiration? So the types of respiration are aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now, what is aerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration means a cellular respiration process that occurs in the presence of oxygen. And anaerobic respiration is what? A cellular respiration process that occurs in the absence of oxygen. Okay. Now, when we talk about respiration, that means both these two types, okay, either aerobic or anaerobic, both will occur inside the cell. That means both of these are cellular respiration. Now, inside the cell, when breakdown of food sources takes place, but in presence of what? In presence of oxygen, that is called as aerobic respiration. Okay, but what happens in anaerobic respiration? There are breakdown of food sources takes place, but in the absence of oxygen. Here oxygen is not. Okay, so that is called as anaerobic respiration. Now, what are the types of anaerobic respiration? So, anaerobic respiration is again divided into two types. One is alcoholic fermentation and another one is lactic acid fermentation. So, when we tell about alcoholic fermentation, so this is the fermentation process where alcohol is being produced. Okay, alcohol is being produced. So, we are going to study later on. Then what is lactic acid fermentation? Lactic acid fermentation is the fermentation process where lactic acid is produced. Now we are going to study the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So what is aerobic respiration? So it is a cellular respiration that occurs in the presence of oxygen. Anaerobic respiration, it is also a cellular respiration, but it occurs in the absence of oxygen. Okay. Now, here in case of aerobic respiration, complete breakdown of glucose takes place. That means whatever food sources are there, that means in the form of glucose. Food sources means in the form of glucose. Here, complete breakdown of glucose takes place. But here in anaerobic respiration, incomplete breakdown of glucose takes place. Now see, when complete breakdown of glucose takes place, that means more energy will be produced. Okay, but when incomplete breakdown of glucose takes place, that means less energy will be produced. Now this aerobic respiration, it occurs in most plants as well as animals, and this anaerobic respiration, it occurs in yeast, some bacteria, and also human muscle cell. Okay, now this aerobic respiration, it takes place in cytoplasm and mitochondria and of the cell, and anaerobic respiration, it takes place only in the cytoplasm of the cell. Now I think every one of us know what is cytoplasm and what is mitochondria. So cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance where the cell, different types of cell organelles, they float. As well as this mitochondria is what it is also called as the powerhouse of the cell. Okay. Now see, in case of aerobic respiration, the end products are carbon dioxide and water, whereas in case of anaerobic respiration, end products are either carbon dioxide and ethanol or lactic acid. Okay, carbon dioxide and ethanol during alcoholic fermentation, okay, and lactic acid during lactic acid fermentation. Now see, during breakdown of glucose in aerobic respiration, what happens? As I already told here in the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, see, when glucose or food sources from the external environment are taken in. So glucose is what? It is a 6-carbon molecule, and the chemical formula of glucose is C6H12, C6H12O6. So We already studied about glucose in previous part, that is photosynthesis part. So C6H12O6, that is glucose. So in cytoplasm, what happens? So why when aerobic, we talk about aerobic respiration, that means all those organisms that does aerobic respiration. That means you can also include human being here. So let us talk about us. So when we take in glucose, then this glucose in cytoplasm, what happens? In cytoplasm, this glucose will be broken down into pyruvate, and pyruvate is what? It is 3-carbon molecule, along with some form of energy is also released. Now this pyruvate in the mitochondria, in the presence of oxygen, what does it does? It will produce carbon dioxide, that is a waste product that we release through the lungs, and by the nose we release to the external environment, and then some amount of water, that will also be a waste product, and then production of energy. Okay, so this in case of us and other organisms also that does aerobic respiration. Now what happens during breakdown of glucose in anaerobic respiration? Now if we talk about the yeast cell, okay, so yeast is what? It is a unicellular organism, and when the glucose that is taken in, and this glucose again in the cytoplasm, it will be broken down into pyruvate, and then this pyruvate, in absence of oxygen in the yeast cell, what it will happen? This will produce ethanol. Okay, that is 2-carbon molecule, and chemical formula will be C2H5O. This is the chemical formula of ethanol, and release of carbon dioxide and production of some form of energy. Okay, but not in sufficient amount. Now let us talk what happens during lack of oxygen in our muscle cells. So this glucose again in the cytoplasm, it will be broken down to pyruvate and energy, and this pyruvate in our muscle cells during lack of oxygen, what it will produce? It will produce lactic acid. Okay, that is 3-carbon molecule and some form of energy. Now see, what in case of muscle cells? Now what are muscle cells? Those muscle cells, they are attached to the skeleton of our body. Now those muscle cells, okay, those are elongated, either spindle shaped. Okay, so when suppose we some of us are running marathon. Okay, you are running a marathon race, and then you are continuously running, and then you are taking in oxygen, releasing carbon dioxide, taking in oxygen, releasing carbon dioxide, taking in oxygen, and then releasing carbon dioxide. Then this oxygen, when it reaches to the lungs, okay, and then to the different cells of the body, those breakdown of the this thing what called glucose will take place, and then release some form of energy. Why? Because of the lack of oxygen. Okay, that means you are getting, your cells are getting oxygen, but not in not abundantly. Okay, you are getting oxygen, your cells are getting oxygen, but in limited amount. Okay, so some form of energy is produced along with lactic acid, and this lactic acid, when it is being produced or released sorry, then this lactic acid will make you feel cramp in your joints. Okay, joints of your body, those where muscle cells are being used, like in your hands and legs, where a movement was continuously done during the running process. So it will cause cramps. This lactic acid will cause cramps in those joints of your body where muscle cells are being attached to the skeleton of your body. So these are the processes of breakdown of glucose in either aerobic or anaerobic respiration. So thank you for visiting my channel. And then if you are very new to my channel, please subscribe my channel. And if you like my video, please do not forget to share and then like my video. And thank you for watching.